And welcome to another Round the Rotary podcast with me, your host, J.P. Warren, and with us today we have Dena Demboski, the VP of Ops at Upcurve Energy. How are you doing today?
Good. Doing good.
Before we kick this off, and this is something we started doing, I need to do a little Capital Petroleum Consultants plug real quick. Round the Rotary podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants. CPC specializes in project engineering, well site supervision in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. You can contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today. Sounds pretty official, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does. So Dena, first off, again, thank you for taking time out of your day. We were just talking about kind of how, before we started recording, how it's funny how like these Zoom meetings are a lot longer than they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 15-minute Zoom meetings are taking 45 minutes to an hour, so I appreciate you coming out and taking a little time out of your day to do this. Why don't we do what we normally do? Let's get this kicked off a little bit. How did you, where'd you go to school? What companies have you been at? How'd you get into engineering? So let's just start off kind of your background, your professional background.
Okay. Well, first off, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you.
Glad to be here. I started out engineering. I picked engineering because it required the least amount of English, to be honest with you.
So you chose engineering because the least amount of English. That's very,
yeah.
Okay.
I hated English growing up, but the irony is it's probably one of the most important skills that I use today.
Yep.
And you think about that in the industry, if you communicate incorrectly, it's people could get hurt, or things can be misinterpreted, whether it's in a procedure or verbal instruction over the phone, or even in a text message.
Yep.
There's a lot of communication that happens in text messages. So
was it text deaf or tone deaf, where it's like, whoa, I wasn't trying to be real, I was trying to be funny. Like,
yeah.
You're right. I mean, proper I remember English too. That's something that we share. That was the only Q job I did at A&M, was technical writing.
Yeah. So I went to A&M as well.
All right.
I studied mechanical engineering. I wasn't petroleum.
Okay.
I picked mechanical because it was more universal, and I really wasn't sure what industry I wanted to work in. And when I was in school, I actually did HVAC work. I was as a student, I was working part-time for a consulting firm, doing building automation security system designs for commercial buildings.
Okay.
So I actually did, I was involved in Anadarko's building over in the Woodlands. I did the Enron buildings before they became Chevron.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I was still a student. I spent a summer in the UK commissioning some buildings in Canary Wharf. So yeah, it was very, very mechanical, very boring. I hated it. It just didn't motivate me. I wasn't real passionate about it. I wasn't passionate about learning new things. It was the same fluid, same pressure, same temperature.
Same design, same.
Yeah, you just slap. Yeah. You just slap a different VAV box on a different floor. It wasn't stimulating mentally for me, so I didn't like it. And
it sounds to me like the HVAC industry is probably more stable right now than the oil and
gas
industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree with that, especially in Texas. But
so how long did you do this for before you're like, mechanical engine, this HVAC is not for me? Like, how long were you doing these internships and these buildings before you made the switch?
A couple years before I graduated, I started working for FMC Technologies.
Okay.
They have a student design center in College Station, so it was nice. They hired engineering students, doing CAD, SolidWorks designs, and we were basically slave labor, I call it, for FMC, it's a great opportunity because you're directly working with engineers professionally, and they do hire a lot of students from the design center to come in full time. So I did that. That's kind of how I got involved, with the oil and gas industry, and then I participated in a collegiate council through the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and it's a good group. I actually am one of the co-chairs today for the organization. ASME gives us about, I'd say, anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 a year to spend on students, and we have students from all over the United States, engineering students that are interested in learning about oil and gas. And so I mentor and put on that program.
Okay.
I'll put that program on today. So That's kind of where my interest in oil and gas started, and then I was the activities chair for ASME locally at A&M, and so I helped coordinate speakers to come in, right? So I was working with different companies to come in, and that's a great role because I'm the direct contact.
Yeah.
So I was getting to talk to different companies as a student. And I really connected with a couple of folks with Burlington Resources that were looking to hire a facilities engineer at the time. And so they were wanting a mechanical engineer. They had come and did a presentation on campus. I helped coordinate that. And then what I really liked was every time they came to campus, they'd always shoot me a text message or call me and take me to lunch or take me to dinner, and we just really connected. And when it came time to graduation and picking where you want to go work, I picked Burlington. It wasn't because it was the highest offer. I mean, I graduated at a really good time, and I didn't know if I would even. I took every interview that I was offered.
Leave your options open. Leave them out there.
Yeah.
Right,
I interviewed for, and I had 11 job offers when I graduated college. Very blessed, but the industry was very good, but I didn't know, who might give me an offer, and what that would look like. So I took any interview that I was given. I interviewed with operators, I interviewed with different service companies, and I just really liked the family feel with Burlington, and the fact that, every time those people came back to campus, they always called me.
Yeah, they'd show that they cared. I mean,
Yep.
Definitely. I mean, I would assume, being a student and first off, setting up all these lecturers and all these speakers is very exciting. But you also have that other. It's kind of like a little mini business aspect.
Yeah.
If you're doing the dinners and
Yeah.
if you're doing coffees with them,
Yeah.
so you kind of understand their culture more than just a lecturer.
Yeah.
A guest
So
speaker.
I mean, the networking piece
Yeah.
is really important, right? Like even as a student. And you need to, and I would give advice to students. I'm sure that we probably don't have student listeners, but
You might be a couple. If there are, give us a shout out.
But I mean, put yourself out there and set yourself, try to set yourself apart from others, because I did recruiting too, and as a recruiter, you're looking at 500 plus resumes, and how do you make yourself stand out on a resume? So. We're kind of getting off topic.
No. That's a good point. I mean, part of our roles here in the oil and gas industry is not just performing our jobs, but it's also being ambassadors of the oil and gas industry. So I think if there are student listeners out there, I mean, how could they set themselves apart? I mean, how could they get active or network if they're still in college?
Well, you could apply the same thing to business professionals too. Looking to change careers and getting involved with things that would apply towards your next opportunity or what you're interested in.
So you went from got the job at Burlington.
Yeah, and then they got bought by ConocoPhillips.
Okay.
So I ended up working at ConocoPhillips for almost 5 years.
Were you doing facilities?
No, actually I wasn't. So Conoco had they called it a grad program. So it was, you do 6 months in every discipline. You would do some time in drilling, completions, production, facilities, and, and then you do this 2-year rotational stint grad program, and then you come out and you pick what you want to do. Well, I look at it as 80 people, 80 new hires the year I came on. I told you it was a boom when I came on board. But, everyone's coming out at the same time. You're not going to get to pick, you might end up in the same position that you finished your last rotation in, or it just kind of depends on the market. And so I started out 6 months in reservoir. I learned enough to be dangerous. Okay. And then, but it gave me a good background, right? Because I wasn't a petroleum major, I was mechanical. So it gave me a little bit of background. I got to play around with Aries for a little bit and do some non-op asset evaluations. And then I got into completions, and I loved it. I wanted out. I fought to get out of the grad program, and I did. And I spent about 2.5 years in completions, working in Bossier, Texas Bossier, doing crosslink. We don't even do those anymore.
That's
today.
I kind of want
frac
to.
jobs.
I want to go back on that. That's a very interesting path because you're in this set. Conoco, one of the majors out there. They know career development. They know career paths. They have set objectives to get to the next level. But you, on the other hand, were like, you know what? I'm done. I want to pursue this. Why were you so comfortable and confident in making that decision?
Because I wanted to add value, and
Okay.
I didn't see 6 months in a position. You're working. You have a mentor. You're assigned a
Right.
mentor. And you're assigned projects. But like, if you're only in a position for 6 months, the projects you're given are 6-month projects, sort of, or you're
Okay.
handing off to someone else. So I wanted to add value, and I wanted to see results. And I think that's why I'm still in operations today. Is I like to try new things, and I like to see how well it worked. And you don't always get to see that in some of the other positions. It may take years before a project comes to fruition, and it just depends on the person. But I like, if I'm going to drill a well, I want to know how it goes, right away, and I like to see how things evolve and change and continually improve.
It was a gut reaction. I want to add value, and I need to be doing something different.
Well, I really enjoyed the technology and being in the field in completions. So I spent 2.5 years in completions, and the feedback I got from getting out was, there's no guarantee, all these engineers that are going to go through all these positions. If you ever want to come back and apply for another position, if you have no experience in it, someone who completed the program is going to probably get it. And I said, that's fine.
It's a gamble.
I'm willing to do that. Well, then insert 2008, market crashed a little bit, and I saw it as an opportunity to go learn drilling and go spend time on the rig. So I spent about 1.5 years in the field. I'm no longer overhead, so I'm billing my time and my hours to an AFE. So that actually helped the company out in a downturn.
So you were still at Conoco at the time?
I was,
Okay.
yeah. I did all that. So I ended up spending 2.5 years in completions, and then got out, and I was able to get out and go into drilling and learn in the field. So I worked 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off hitches at Conoco for about 1.5 years, and then South Texas, Eagleford. So Conoco got in a position where leases were expiring and companies were coming in and top leasing over. So Conoco went from a 2-rig program back then to 14. We ramped up in like a month.
Wow.
Yeah, so I came back in the office and started drilling wells, and then
Did you enjoy the office dynamic of drilling wells versus being on the rig? I mean, it's obviously a difference, but what did you enjoy? Did you enjoy that?
I liked doing both.
Okay.
Honestly, but the timing of all of that was interesting because I had spent so much time in the field with the guys, like actually, on location.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah,
right,
doing
right.
it. So I knew all the company men that were, kind of, they were all split up and took over new rigs, and so I kind of knew them. And we were all working on the same team. I ended up having 2 rigs running for Conoco, and there were other engineers I was working with, but I talked to a lot of the company men on other rigs, to find out what worked, and a lot of the success I think we had too. It's not just you don't just take a program and force people to run this company and run this bit, and it's kind of knowing your people and getting to know the directional driller that's drilling on your well and your company men and kind of preferences and what they're more comfortable with. And it's not the same for every rig, and there were times, and it was a learning phase for all of us with that kind of rapid growth, but kind of spend more time, get to know your people, know their strengths and weaknesses, and what really motivates them. Find out what motivates people, because man, when you figure out how to motivate someone, you can get a lot more done. And so I feel like I do a lot more of that now than the actual engineering piece. I have some help now at Upcurve.
I think what's so crucial about what you're talking about, and I can relate to it too. I mean, I remember when I was in the office at Noble Drilling, I would hate to call it rigs. I was I didn't know the lingo, I didn't know the verbiage, I didn't know if they were, bullshitting me about something, I didn't know it, but once you start working offshore, once you start working on the rig or boots to the ground, whatever, you decide to do field experience, you know how to communicate. You know what's driving these people, and what's you can relate. So I think the communication aspect of working in the field and taking that to the office is invaluable. I mean, it's a great tool to have.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. And spending time in the field first, I think, was really helpful. For me, I got to see kind of the do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
I would say that from engineering, because one of the first guy that I actually lived with on the rig told me, listen to the field, and that's something that's kind of always stuck with me, and something I've obviously learned throughout my years is degrees or experience outranks degrees.
Right.
In my opinion, with operations, you got to factor field experience in when you're making decisions. And I've working in the field, on the field level, where you've got an engineer that's kind of sending out programs and you're supporting their program in the field. It's interesting because I've worked with some that like to control and tell everyone what to do from afar.
It's my way.
It doesn't work.
Nope.
and I remember sitting in the doghouse one night when we got a phone call, and the engineer wanted to pick up and circulate for 30 minutes and warm up the motor. And we had been drilling, I don't know how long we had been drilling, but it was like we all kind of looked at each other like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And they're just, it's like new green, engineers that are out there, but there's some, and I've seen engineers that come out there and want to tell somebody that's got 25 years experience how to do their job, and they come out acting, you act like that, these guys are gonna do exactly what you tell them to do, even when they know it's wrong.
Right.
And I've seen that happen more times than not. Now, not in the capacity where someone would get hurt, but you're not gonna get the optimal performance. So you gotta learn how to listen, you gotta learn how to read people, and make people feel like part of a team. So that's something that I try to focus on with my work. Where we all have a voice and everyone's matters, and we're all in this together. So, there's times when I do feel strongly about something, but there's an art, and I feel like I do more work with English now.
Right.
But if you can make someone think that your idea is their idea, or set them up, right? Think about like you set a volleyball or something like that. You may have an idea of what you want to do or how you want to do it, but if you ask questions to where the people that are executing your program or the work for you can answer those questions, and then you're kind of leading the horse to water, where then they come up and maybe comment like, oh, well, why don't we do this? Like, that's not a bad idea. Let's try that.
Absolutely.
And now they've got ownership in it, right? So creating situations where you give ownership to your entire team,
there's
I think is really important.
There's buy-in, there's field level buy-in
Yeah.
from that. And if you go out there with your ego telling people what to do, you're not going to get, as you said, they're going to do it, but you're not going to get the optimal results that you want. So you're now in drilling. You're at Conoco. You got 2 rigs. Now what?
So in 2011, I had a colleague from Burlington that had called me about an opportunity at Lynn Energy, and which is now Riviera Resources. But Lynn was predominantly all production based assets, no real organic growth. At least that was in-house, and so they were looking to start a drilling organization and pick up and started in the Permian. They had executed a turnkey program at one time when the market was not as good, and then the contracts were expiring, so they were looking for someone in-house to come and kick off the drilling organization over there. So I agreed to go, and I left Conoco to start a drilling
program. That's a pretty big. That's a pretty big step right there from kind of only being, what, 2 years in the office in drilling, right?
Yeah.
That's a big...
2 years in the office, but time in the field too.
Were you comfortable making this jump?
It was uncomfortable. Every career move I've made has been uncomfortable.
And
if you want to know the truth.
No, I kind of want to speak to. No, absolutely want to speak to that, because a lot of people think it's a natural, easy. Once you get either promoted or you move to a different role, that it's just an easy transition in. But there's a lot of uncomfortable self-doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even sure if I'm capable of doing this, but again, I'm advised to push yourself.
Yep.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I just kept my head down and kept going.
All right.
And do what you think is right, and that's kind of how I live my life.
So that was so you went over to Lynn. You're starting this new drilling program.
Yes, so Lynn was interesting because Lynn, I'd say out of my favorite jobs, I loved working at Lynn.
Why?
The people were awesome, but then I learned so much juggling different assets. So at Lynn, our drilling organization supported all of our assets. It wasn't like some of the companies today where you have a drilling engineer for each asset.
Okay.
We were the drilling department for the entire company. So my time at Lynn, I drilled in the Permian, I drilled in the Panhandle, I drilled, I air drilled in the Panhandle, I drilled 200 wells in Kansas. The Pions was probably one of my favorite.
So you're just getting
ones
experience everywhere.
all over the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was really neat because I got exposure to different basins, and I think that was probably one of the primary selling points for me going with private equity now, because we're doing asset evaluations,
right,
and just being able to go look at an area and then figure out how to drill and complete it is important.
Well, that's interesting to me. So you're coming in from primarily just one formation, pretty much, with Conoco or two, and now you're going to this new role, and you just mentioned several different areas, several different formations, several different types of drilling. Where did you get the knowledge or know-how to say, hey, look, I don't have any experience right here, but we're going to go drill 200 wells here? Like, where did you get the knowledge or the know-how to go into a new...
It's a lot of research. There's a lot of public data available. I rely on a lot of vendors, too. A lot of key vendors that I trust. Personally, I focus with bits and mud,
right,
some of the rig contractors. And then I think I do a fairly good job of trying to network and keep my, contact database, sufficient, right, where when I'm getting into a certain area, and I want to learn more about this basin, find out who's operating in there and who do I know at different companies that I can reach out to and talk to.
Who can I bend their ear a little bit and find out about this formation? Okay, so you're at Lynn. You're drilling everywhere. Mm-hmm. So how long are you there for?
I left Lynn a little over 2 years ago to come to Upcurve.
All right.
So yeah, Lynn was great. Lynn went through a Chapter 11 filing, and things just really slowed down, and I can't sit still.
Right.
I was so bored. I actually showed my boss at the time a photo album that I put together from my Italy trip that we took Mom on. This is what I did this month. I would out. I asked to be let go.
Oh, really?
Lynn. Yeah,
Okay.
I wanted to try and get a severance package if I could, because they were doing. Lynn laid off a lot of people, and now Rivier's laid off a significant amount. I think they're almost done. I'm not entirely sure, but. That was the idea was to exit and get out, and so I asked because there wasn't enough activity to keep me busy. Yeah,
right,
and
right.
I knew that, and so I wanted an opportunity. I got a phone call from my boss now at Upcurve, and he had heard about me and wanted to have breakfast. So we had breakfast, and he told me all about Upcurve and kind of how Upcurve got started and where the position was. And I hadn't worked I had not worked the Delaware Basin yet. I was only working Midland Basin when I was at Lynn. So I didn't have any prior exposure to the Delaware, but
Right.
I had a proven record of figuring different basins out, I think, with my tenure at Lynn. So it kind of worked out. I told him I was interested. I told him I wanted to see if I could get a severance at Lynn and, you know, go that route. And so they waited a couple months for me, which was nice. So my last day at Lynn, I left that office and I drove to my rig to go look at it. And I picked it up a week later.
Really?
Upcurve. Oh yeah, I started working the same day that I quit.
Hit the ground running.
Or left.
Right.
Lynn. So yeah, I don't like to sit still.
Okay, well that makes sense. Kind of probably explains where you're at today. So how have things been for you personally at Lynn? Not Lynn. I'm sorry, at Upcurve right now. I mean, just since March. I mean, everything kind of hitting the fan right now. How are you kind of adapting and communicating to the group, or the group communicating to you, like during these times? I mean, it's times of uncertainty. You know, things are consolidating. How do you communicate effectively to everyone? I guess the goals and what's going on.
Yeah, Upcurve is in a great position right now. We are backed by Post Oak Capital. They're based here in Houston.
All right.
They've been great to work with. We were looking to deploy additional growth capital already before COVID. So we were, you know, spending some time looking at different other positions. And during COVID, I'd say we've tried to target some companies and see, you know, if we can't just like send some unsolicited offers out and just look. So we're actively looking. I actually just did a recording for Doug on Friday. I think it's gonna air on the 29th of this month. But yeah, it kind of goes into a little more detail for what we're doing and kind of our position.
Well, y'all can listen to that, and I'd love for you to send me the link, and we'll put that too when we release this.
The conference is free now, actually, because it's virtual, so anybody can go listen to it.
Well, we'll put that.
And there'll be other companies talking about their positions and stuff as well, so it'd be a good opportunity to kind of learn who's doing what in the Eagle Ford and Permian. They combined the two this year.
So everything right now, I mean, what's kind of is anything kind of giving you anxiety right now with the industry? And if so, I kind of want to balance that too. What are you excited about in our industry in the near term?
I'm excited for the growth. We have Upcurve has just under 10,000 contiguous acres in Reeves County, central Reeves County. We've got 17 wells online producing right now. And we've got some additional wells that we've deferred into next year to HBP the position in its entirety. But we are looking to expand and get bigger and start Upcurve 2. So that'll be another growth opportunity for the company.
So during these times of, I guess, reduced activity and the times where you're actually looking at deals and planning this, planning that, obviously rig count is at 254 right now, very low. What are you guys doing internally or personally to prop yourselves up for that growth when it comes?
Okay, so
like, what can people do right now?
Can people or Dena?
What can Dena do, and then what can people do?
Okay, so something that we have done internally, and I say we as in operations for Upcurve, is gone back and done look backs through what we've done to date. How can we do it better? Look at who's around us and what they're doing. We do a lot of knowledge sharing with some of the smaller companies because we're not big like the Oxys that are around us. And
it's probably easier to do knowledge share with smaller groups too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And we just don't have the inventory that some of the bigger companies have. So we schedule those. Also training. I'm actually taking an online oil and gas finance course right now.
Okay.
We're very involved with our board meetings and doing these asset evaluations with the banks. just the lingo, like I haven't done this type of evaluation from like the reservoir standpoint, and understanding the economics behind all of it. So the supplemental, taking this time to continue to learn,
Right.
you know, in a downturn, I think is really important. Even if it's, I think Kate had mentioned, like Python or Spotfire. There's a big push towards big data
Right.
and kind of managing all that, because there's so many ways now that every different technology can sit here and, you know, gather data now. There's so much data. How do we manipulate it to learn and to better our operations?
Right.
So I think it's important to focus on that as well. So I'm taking some courses to kind of help me on the asset evaluation side, but that's kind of what we're more focused on right now, is trying to grow, and I want to be able to support the company, you know, in a downturn where we don't have a rig running right now. We plan to pick up a rig next year around February, but until then.
So when this is released in January, your phone's gonna be blowing up pretty much. All right, that's what's gonna happen. We'll get into that later. We'll get into that in a little bit. So you're learning the financial. So you have the lingo to speak towards, I guess the private equity side. What motivates them,
Mm-hmm.
and again, that's learning what's motivating people. So you're training on the online course.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you're looking at previous KPIs and kind of what you guys can do better to increase efficiency. And is your entire team doing that as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So kind of everyone's in the same. Hey, look, it's slow right now. Let's get together and improve for a little bit until things turn around.
And we haven't done any reduction in workforce either. We were lean to begin with.
Okay.
So the time to do some of these KPIs, we didn't have staff necessarily focused on that while we were blowing and going. So it's actually been nice to go back and look at the data now and then look at opportunities to change things and make them better.
Make some increase efficiencies a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I kind of want, before we get into the last kind of part that I want to talk about, which is kind of more advice and counsel for people potentially listening out there. What am I not covering something that we wanted to cover before we get into that? Your favorite role in the oil field, I think you discussed that. Let's kind of get into this. And we're coming up on 32 minutes. I think we can kind of spend a long time doing this. You and I spoke about, obviously we're talking about efficiencies. We're talking about time, lingo, and everything like that. Currently, I mean, we can apply this to the current times right now, but we're having a conversation about people getting appointments with people, right? Salespeople getting an appointment with engineers. What advice do you have to people out there right now that are trying to get appointments, or if they do line up an appointment with an engineer or can get 5 minutes of their time? How would they approach that?
I try to schedule my appointments based on my operations.
Okay.
So if I'm not drilling a well till February, I may not schedule some of my drilling meetings if I've got 2 ducks to frack before the end of the year. So I'm kind of more focused on the frack side at the current moment, and I try to focus on what's important right now, what I need right now
Right.
first. So I'll schedule those meetings. So maybe if you ask, about the timing and kind of schedule meetings as it's more applicable to when things are actually happening with a smaller company, right? That may not be as steadily working. Also, something that I really appreciate is when, people come to see me that don't have scheduled appointments. Know something about my company before you come through
Right.
my door. You wouldn't go to an interview, right? As like anybody.
Podcast
You
interview,
wouldn't-
whatever it is.
You wouldn't go to an interview without having done your homework on the company that you're interviewing with, right? So why would you do that job any different? My opinion, with my current position now, compared to when I was just a drilling engineer at Conoco, your window of influence changes,
Okay.
right? So my window of influence at Upcurve is much bigger now than it was possibly at Conoco. And, there's a lot more decisions and there's a lot more decisions I have to make. And if you can help me be more efficient with my time in the office, I appreciate that, and I'm going to be more willing to let someone come in and see me that's more cognizant of that.
And what is not, so just kind of in layman's term, not being cognizant of your time, or is I don't think it's an initial attack, but at the same time, it's also respecting your time. So that's pretty much people coming sitting down, having no idea what Upcurve does.
Yeah, so like if you come in my office,
Yeah.
if 15 people come in unplanned, which is not uncommon
Right.
during any time, right? When things are normal and,
Mhm.
and everyone's in the office again. And so if 15 people come in and they want 5 minutes of your time, if 5 minutes turns into 15 very easily, and if you don't know anything about what we're doing and I let you back, now that first 5 minutes is me telling you what we're doing or asking you to leave because you came unprepared, and I've done that, and I'm probably known for that. And the reason I do that is because you have shown me in the first 5 minutes that you haven't done your homework. So when my phone goes off at 3 a.m. and I'm in a bind with operations, you're probably not the person that's going to answer the phone at 3 a.m. To me, that's what that tells
Okay.
me. So know your audience, right? And this industry is big, but it's really not that big, right? You
It's
probably
not that
know
big.
somebody that knows, if you're having a hard time getting in with someone, you probably know someone that knows that
Oh,
person.
yeah, absolutely.
And you can do some homework on kind of what motivates that person, or
What are they
how
like? What
could
are they
you
into? What really?
yeah, how
Yeah.
can you communicate, or how can you effectively communicate? And so, me personally, I want to get my work done at the office, because if I sit there and visit with people all day long, I don't get to do my work until people stop coming after 3 or 4 o'clock
Right.
in the afternoon. And so I may not go home until midnight, and that's been the case several times whenever we're really busy and I have frac crews running and rigs running. So I am more hesitant to let someone in. But also, I pay attention to little things. So
Okay.
how you treat my secretary or our admin at the front desk, if you're ugly with her, it's going to get back to me. And when it does, you're probably not coming back in. Like,
Oh,
you-
I kind of agree with that, though. I mean, you don't want to. I mean, that's the thing. You don't want to do work with someone. It's just like I remember, when I was single, going out on dates. A red flag was how you would treat the waiter or waitress,
Yeah,
right? If you don't
yeah.
treat people kindly,
Yeah.
I don't care if they're the waiter. I don't care if they're the CEO or the pumper. Like, you got to treat people with respect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of understand that. So it's the details.
Yeah.
So how would someone go about, and this might be a little answer to the test for people out there, how would somebody go about actually getting an appointment with you, for example, right now when it's COVID, you can't go into customers' offices. How would they go about getting appointments?
I'd say like phone call and text, but the challenge with phone calls right now are the Zoom calls, right? Like we do a lot of Zoom meetings,
Right.
Presentations, and I would say that I try to schedule more Zoom calls with companies, technology that relate to my current operation. So
Okay.
really, I wouldn't say it's necessarily anything you could do outside of just make the effort, right? Like, make the effort, put yourself out there, whether it's in an email. The timing of your email is
Yeah.
important too. People don't realize that, know what time someone gets to the office. Make sure that your email is sitting in their inbox when they arrive.
Okay.
Little things like that. You send an email at the end of the day. Just depends on, like I when I start looking at my emails in the morning, you start at the top and you go down. If you send your email 5 o'clock in the afternoon,
It'll be down.
at the end of the day, it might be at lower of the list or something. So, just depending if it's a sales email, if you catch me right in the morning, early, I don't know. I think about things like that because those are.
But that's a good. I mean, that's a good point. Come from me. It's like, oh, when do we do this LinkedIn post to make the best, to have the best hits? I mean, when can I send an email where it's actually read, thought, and replied to versus I'm catching this after my 8 a.m. meeting before my 8:30. I don't have time to reply to this. So you're right. It is kind of it's timing,
Yeah.
kindness, and preparing yourself.
Yeah, like if you get up early and you send out your emails, I'm gonna say between 6 and 7, you're probably gonna be higher up on the list.
Right.
And when you know, when we get them, at least for me, I'm not going to speak on behalf of everybody, but
We're talking
I
about
get to the
talking to you
office,
today,
you
yeah.
open up your computer, you look at your email. I might get through the first 15 emails. So how can you get your email in that first 15 emails?
Right.
I'll probably be more prompt in my response. And it's not that it's not important. It's just that, you know, I get, when we have operations going, I get daily reports, not just, you know, from the rig, but like mud directional,
Yep.
everything. So it's just a ton of emails that come in. So, you know, an email, I'm a big texter too, because with phone calls, know your audience, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to get a hold of a 60-year-old man,
You're not going to send.
you're
You're not going
probably
to
not
send
going to
memes.
get a hold of him on a text message.
You're not going to send gifs and memes to that guy. But what incarnation's this?
Yeah.
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 So, have you noticed that the emails have gone up or stayed the same or gone down since?
Emails have gone down, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
emails have gone down. I got more emails when things were booming.
I can
in the
guarantee
corporate
you,
office.
if anyone's, I guarantee you, if
I'm
this
gonna
goes
regret
out,
saying
I
that
think
now.
I think the whole, I think when you gave us the time frame of picking up the rig, I think your phone's about to blow up. So you might need another way to
I'm
put it.
outing myself
Yeah.
here.
Oh, I love snail mail. Just tell people
Yeah.
that. I think start
Well,
moving forward.
I'm also gonna be if you come in, like, I'm gonna use this analogy of someone who sells bits,
Yeah.
and I'm picking this just because that's the first thing on
All
my
right.
mind. But if you're selling bits, you can get on there's public data out there.
Okay.
You can get on public data. You can find out what are casing design. If you're selling pipe, I get a lot of emails about casing from casing companies or pipe companies. You can pull public data. The Railroad Commission has our wellbore designs, right? It's all
Right.
public data. So you can pull that information before you reach out to me. You can know what we're running, right? You can know you can defer what hole size, what bits I'm running. You know what area we're drilling. So when you come see me,
You don't have to spend
you
5
have
minutes doing that.
you have all the data. You hand me a packet of data. If you email me again, I'm gonna respond. I'm gonna respond to you faster than I would respond to somebody that's unprepared, because to be successful in this industry, I want to surround myself with people that are smarter than me,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And
don't
also
strive
that, and
for
also that are
mediocrity.
and also they're showing that, like, you're doing the work.
Yeah.
You're doing the work beforehand, so you're not just showing up to the table like, oh, clueless, oh, what's going
Yep.
on? Like, you know, like,
Those are the people I want to work with.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are working for me today. Those people.
so your emails have slowed down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of seeing like there's two types of people right now in the oil and gas industry. Like there's people that are kind of keeping their heads down, waiting for things to return, waiting for rigs to be picked back up, waiting for activity to go up. And there's they're kind of off the radar, unfortunately. And we have so many good people in our industry,
Mm-hmm.
and there's other people that are just kind of like doing new things or keep doing innovative things or trying new things to get in front of customers. So
Yeah.
it's definitely kind of created kind of a people that aren't comfortable with emails or the technology, the software you're talking about, looking at rig reports and all stuff, like if they're not comfortable with that, I feel like now's the time to learn.
Yeah.
Get in there. If you're not comfortable with it, get in there, learn it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and for there's a lot of engineers, I'm sure, that are sitting at home and looking for jobs.
Right.
Now's a really good time to learn and educate yourself further. Like I'm taking that oil and gas finance course. I'm doing that kind of on the side, but but it's slow. But things are slow for us. I don't have a rig running
You got
right
the
now,
time.
so I've got the time.
Yeah.
I would say as an employer, when things do pick back up, something that I'm gonna, look for in the next hire, assuming that we grow and get bigger,
Right.
is what did you do in the downturn?
That's a great point. That really is a great point.
Yeah, because it tells me how motivated you are and what are you doing with your free time. And if you're just sitting at home watching TV, watching football, I mean, I watch football too,
Yeah.
but what else are you doing? What
That's
are
a
you
good
doing to
point.
stay busy? How motivated are you? It tells you something about the person.
I think that really does. I kind of feel like that's a great point that no one's brought up. It's like, what are you doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that'll explain kind of the person's personality. Are they self-motivating, or do they have to sit around and be told
Yep.
on how to perform a job?
Yep.
That's a good point. Do you have anything else you want to bring up, or any messages or anything like that? I think it was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, I feel good about it.
All right.
I
Well,
think
again,
we're
everyone, if anyone
good.
has
I'm
any,
gonna give away all my secrets.
well, let's have you on in February or March and tell me how. And bring in your phone records and see how much your phone has blown up since then. So, Dena, thank you so much for coming on. Again, everyone, this is Dena Demboski, the Vice President of Operations at Upcurve Energy. And if you have any questions for her or myself, you can reach us at roundtherotary at cap-petro.com. Again, that's roundtherotary at cap-petro.com. Well, thank you so much, Dena, and best of luck to you.
Thank
for
you.
your continued success.
Enjoyed it.
All right. Talk to you soon.